Today, my special guest, Clint Walker III. Clint, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Matt. Great to be with you.
We had Clint on our other show, the 105.1 FM The Ranch Show at 10 o'clock. It was an awesome interview. Had a great time. And I read not really a bio, but I guess a bio of the business. So let me read to that. Let me read to you, everybody out there, again, what's going on here with Clint and the honey farm. When G.C. Clint Walker Sr. bought 150 hives of bees in the spring of 1930 at the age of 40, he had no idea that he was founding a business that would become a career for not only himself, but for two of his sons and one of their sons. After losing the family grocery business in the little East Milam County town of Gause in central Texas, Clint was simply trying to find some way to feed his wife and four young sons. The family was surviving the earliest years of the Depression with a large garden, lots of canning, and Grandpa's skill as a butcher. Honeybees seemed like a decent gamble. The gamble turned into a business that endures today. To be sure, the business was changed. We are now in our 86th year in our third generation of Walker beekeepers. In the past decade, we have survived colony collapse disorder. Keep that in mind. We're going to be talking about that. And managed to construct a new honey packing plant, retail store, and production facility near Temple, Texas. What hasn't changed is the family's commitment to producing the best quality honey and honey products. Now, whether you've been eating Walker honey for 40 years or just found us on the web, we invite you to sample our carefully crafted and time-tested products. Our hope is that all of our hard work will pay off in your enjoyment and pleasure. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for letting us serve you, Janice and Clint Walker and the team at the Honey Walker Honey Farm. Janice couldn't be here, unfortunately, but we have Clint here. So, Clint, welcome to the show. Is there anything I forgot to mention?
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having us. No, you hit it. You nailed it. And I told you in the first show at the other station this morning, I think it's always a benefit when you start with a failure. So we went broke in the grocery business in 1929, and Grandpa was looking for something else to do. So we're in beekeeping because we failed first, and we try not to forget that. We're willing to take a risk and try.
Fantastic. What gets me about the failed grocery stores, back then, wasn't everybody starving for food?
Absolutely.
I don't get it. It's like an oxymoron. All right.
Great stuff. Thanks for having us.
Sure. Well, as everybody knows on this show, I always ask my guests questions, and I usually give them the questions prior to the interview so that you're prepared, I'm prepared, and without the audience knowing it, we look like we're really good at what we're doing.
I like that.
They heard that, didn't they?
It's a good program.
All right, so today's no different. What we're going to do is we're going to read some questions here, and some of them are going to overlap, so if I repeat myself from time to time, it's okay. It's good to hear it again. But, Clint, I'm a prepper. This show is kind of a prepper type of show, be prepared, all that kind of stuff, and I studied on honey a long time ago as a substitute for sugar, and that opened up the doors to a whole bunch of different things. So what I want to do is get your smarts and share it with the audience on about a whole bunch of different topics, and I'm sure you got some stuff that I haven't asked that you're going to bring up. So let's start it like this. What properties of honey makes it a food item that preppers might want to consider?
Absolutely. Great question. And I'll just preface my answer by saying that you've been one of our customers for maybe 10 years or more.
Yes, sir.
I remember you coming in and we visited and you've bought honey in bulk. And we have a lot of folks that for a myriad of different reasons are storing food. And why is honey a great option for a food storage program? Honey naturally preserves itself. Many of your listeners have heard and know, but I'll repeat it again for the sake of this conversation. They've taken honey out of 3,000-year-old Egyptian pharaohs' tombs, and it's perfectly unspoiled, fit to eat. And so honey's natural preservation properties come into play. There's really no other carbohydrate that you could store that length of time and not have spoilage.
Every time you bring that story up, I always listen in awe, and I always say the same thing. That's unbelievable. 3,000 years, and it's just like you pulled it out of the hive, right?
It really is, and I will tell you, beekeepers, people that have a lot of experience with honey, I would love to dip my spoon in some Pharaoh tomb honey, and with no fear of threat and so that's why honey is ideal. When you and I, if we ever are in a situation where the prepper philosophy has to come into play, and we all hope it never does,
right.
But if it does, you need two things primarily to survive besides water. You need carbs and proteins. If you have those two things, you'll survive. And honey is probably the safest, best, most reliable, and we think, good for you and tasty carb that you could store and have in an emergency.
You know, I've heard this before, but the way you just said it made my brain pop here. Could you, like, in a bug-out bag, have your honey sticks? Would that supplement like a piece of beef jerky? Would that take the place of that, or am I missing something?
It would take the place of anything that you need in there for energy. So the jerky is going to provide your protein, and your proteins are made up of amino acids. So your brain will still function, your muscles will still work, but you need carbohydrates to burn. That's the calories that we have to burn. So you'd be stuck in the chair. Your body might be all right, but actually, we actually have a product in our store. It's a honey-cured beef jerky. Now, if you could store, if you could take my beef jerky, you know, in your bug-out bag. Actually, to your question, military.
I'm stopping by today. I want to pick up some stuff, so you show me around. Okay?
That sounds good. We'd love to do that. The military has put honey in their MREs, their meals ready to eat. And a honey straw is a great thing. A teaspoon of honey is 60 calories, and you can go and fight and live to fight another day. Wow. On that.
That's pretty good. Okay, so did I miss anything on that particular? Is there anything else on why the prepper might want it?
The only thing that I think people need to know about natural honey, and we can talk a little bit later, and I know you're going to want to ask some questions about the difference in our honey and, say, a processed honey, why is raw honey, natural honey different. We'll get to that later. I'll save that. But you need a raw honey because a raw honey preserves itself by crystallizing. People call it granulating, sugaring. It gets hard. It's not liquid anymore. Call it what you want. It's the same process. And it's one way that natural raw honey preserves itself, by forming crystals, and that keeps it from fermenting, or it keeps it from having any bacteria grow in it or anything like that.
Incredible.
It's a beautiful natural process.
What about, I didn't mention this before, but I wanted to mention it last show, but we didn't have time. What about on healing? Like if you have an open wound. I read something about that where you can actually put it on there and it heals. Talk to me about that.
The Greek army, 500 BC, did not understand bacteria, but knew that its soldiers who were injured on the battlefield and could find a wild bee tree and smear the contents of the tree into an open wound. They actually told their soldiers, if you get that mortal wound, you know you're going to die. People die from that type of wound. Smear the contents of a bee tree in that wound, and people lived. And they didn't understand why at that time, but now that we understand bacteria, we know that honey is bactericidal. Honey kills bacteria. It has the added benefit that the antibiotics that your doctor might prescribe to you doesn't have, in that no bug can acclimate to the bactericidal properties of honey. So, for example, streptococcus or pneumococcus, they put them in the dishes, and some antibiotics that have been on the shelf too long and used too much, overused, abused, the bugs now have become resistant to them. But if you can get honey on a wound, now unfortunately this doesn't work. You can't inject honey in your blood veins, so in your veins. So this is not for intravenous use. But if you have a cut, there's nothing better than honey, way better than triple antibiotic ointment to put on a cut.
Wow.
Plus, it cuts down scarring. Scar tissue can't grow in the presence of honey.
You know what's more amazing than what you're telling me? What's more amazing than what you just told me is the person who thought about it back then and said, hey, put some honey on that.
Right.
How do they come up with this
Old
stuff?
wives' tales, and now the science is coming in behind and saying we're testing that and saying that's true. That's really right.
That's incredible. That's a great thing for a prepper, man. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's a sugar substitute where you can cook with it. If you're out of sugar for whatever it is you're cooking, you can utilize that.
And cooking with honey actually makes them stay moist longer, so your cookies don't dry out in the jar or on the countertop if you make them with honey, as opposed to sugar.
Is it like a cookie oil? Honey oil?
You can a good natural oil in combination with honey, and you're going to have a moist cookie. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. What else can we talk about? What issues might a person face with honey over long periods of time? We talked about that, I believe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What experience do you and Walker Honey have with honey storage? I think we're talking temperatures and how you contain it.
Right.
Why don't you tell us about that?
We typically like to keep honey at a constant temperature. It doesn't have to be cold. Honey does quite well in a beehive with 100+ degree temperatures in August and below freezing temperatures in January and February. So honey doesn't suffer from temperature modulations. When we store honey, we typically store it for a year or less. So if we make honey in May or June or July. It may be next January before we put it in the bottle, and you're going to come pick it up off the shelf. We store that honey in steel drums with a food-grade liner in that, and the honey preserves beautifully.
Clarify why the steel liner as compared to like the bucket we had discussed before.
Right.
When I got my honey, I bought it in a 5-gallon bucket. But if you do it in a long-term storage, there might potentially be a challenge. Why don't you tell us about that?
Glass is always your number one option for storing honey, just because glass doesn't leach anything out into the contents of what you have in it. Plastic, although we use food-grade plastics for our honey, our buckets, our plastic containers, on the long term, I would rather just take the safe route, even though the plastics that we use are certified food grade.
What's that called? BFNLA or something?
BPA, I think. But
are you familiar with what that is? Can you
yes,
explain
absolutely. It's an additive in plastics, and that it's largely been eliminated from food grade plastics for a long. They discovered it in baby formula bottles and things like that were clearly intended for human consumption, and so there's been so much press about that I think the industry has pretty much eliminated that from most food items. You still have to be careful and watch for it.
What makes Walker honey different than other honey that I may want to buy at the store? Does this go back to the question we want to get to in depth?
No, this is a good place to do that. I think what sets us apart, and I want to include a lot of other people who are doing what we're doing, is that we're like the person that you knock on their door at the farm and they're selling a dozen eggs out the back door from their chickens and their hens, and you can have a conversation about what's going on there, or farm-raised beef or pork or anything like that. If you know your producer, then you can trust your food. Now, when we go to the store with honey, there's an added component to that. The big store brands, the store brands or the big multinational packers that are putting honey on the shelf, the names that you know but we won't mention here today, right? They are processing their honey, homogenizing their honey, pasteurizing their honey. They're heating it to 165 degrees, kills all the natural occurring yeast and enzymes and the good things in honey. They filter out all the plant pollens that the bees put in the honey. And they're taking everything out of the honey except for two things, the fructose and glucose molecules. So it's still sweet, but it's not all the honey.
I want to set this up. And why are they doing that, Clint?
Right. It's they're doing it for one reason. They want to keep honey liquid on the store shelf. They want to be able to ship it across the country from one central location in Kansas or Iowa or California.
Ladies and gentlemen, we talked about this in the last show, and I was just like, oh, I can't believe it, man. It's all about the dollar. Let's finish up that point by saying this. What happens to the honey when it's left out in the open? It does what? It crystallizes.
It crystallizes.
Some people may think that it's going bad.
Right.
So these companies, which will go unnamed, do what you said by taking out all those good stuff of the honey so that they can maintain it in a liquid form and it looks pretty on the shelf and it never looks funky, right?
It's purely cosmetic. That's exactly right.
So here the customer is buying honey because they've heard all these great things about honey and they're spending the money for the honey. However, all the good stuff is out of it, whereas your stuff, and other little local guys too, I don't take nothing away from these guys, but what you're doing is it's natural and it's got all those things. So reiterate it once again.
Exactly right. And then the only way that you know that your honey is raw, that it's been strained, we run it through a sock strainer, we call it, and that gets the beeswax out of it, or if there's a bee wing in it or something like that, because we want you to have a good, clean, clear liquid, much like you might strain milk through cheesecloth if you had natural milk. And your local beekeeper is doing that. So if you're hearing this and you're not in Bell County, and even here in Bell County, there's some good local beekeepers that you can trust. Have that conversation. It's like that buying the eggs from the local farmer analogy. If you go buy from the local farmer and you see the egg is not perfectly clean and washed and maybe there's 3 different colors of eggs, you don't get upset at that imperfection. You go, boy, I know that's fresh right out from under the hen. I don't have to worry about how long it's been in a truck or a warehouse or cold storage somewhere.
That's a good point. I like it. Okay. What special advice would you give to me if you want to store honey, where to store it? Oh, we already talked about that. There was something over here, though, we had mentioned. And I think I think let's do this. Let's go to the raw honey. Why don't you go into that in more depth? I think you did it, but you wanted to finish up on some points, didn't you?
Sure. You know, if you want to use honey, we talked about science and the old wives' tales, and I think I mentioned on the first show that as a kid growing up, when my sisters or myself would have a sore throat, anyone in the family would have a sore throat, my dad would mix up his special concoction of apple cider vinegar and honey, and we would sip that, and our throat felt better. Now, you know, I wondered for a while, was that better because Dad was taking care of our sore throat, or because it was actually doing something good? Science has come in now, as we talked about the bactericidal properties of honey. We talked about being proven now, and this is one of the most exciting new latest research things in honey. Penn State University did a study about 4 years ago. It's been replicated again and now peer reviewed, that honey is better for childhood cough than dextromethorphan, which the DM that was always in, I'll say it, Robitussin DM, you know, the DM part. Pediatricians always worried about prescribing that to their patients because there's side effects to that. Kids get hopped up, they don't go to sleep well. The DM is not a good product, but it did seem to calm the cough. In this study, honey did a better job than dextromethorphan, and actually dextromethorphan failed to do better than the placebo, the sugar water treatment in the study.
Is that a study somebody can look up somewhere?
Absolutely. In fact, if people want to get in contact with me and follow up on any of these questions, they can send me an email to clint@walkerhoneyfarm.com, and I'll be glad to give them the link to that study and the replicated study.
Well, once they see it for themselves, they'll probably be switching over pretty quick. Go ahead and give that website again.
And the science, Clint@walkerhoneyfarm.com. Okay. And the science behind so many of these things are good. And the key about where this plays into raw honey is most of these things are only tested in raw honey, not in processed honey. So honey for coughs, honey reduces inflammation. It's a natural antihistamine. It's good for so many things that the wives' tales have been out there for 500 years about, and now we're getting science behind.
I can back you up on at least the throat thing. I was down and out for a couple weeks, and I was hacking up my left lung, you know, just by coughing so much. And I finally said, you know, I don't ever do this. Let me concoct this thing with honey in it. But I was using just that honey. I wasn't using your
right.
I was looking, where's their honey? And I found this old jar that was crystallized. Well, maybe it was good honey. It was all crystallized. And I put it in the drink, drank it. And as soon as I drank it, I immediately felt some better feeling. It was a lot smoother. You
can do this with lemon juice, with apple cider vinegar, which has some other good properties for your gastrointestinal tract. The apple cider vinegar does. Puts the good microbes, good bugs back in your stomach. So if you've been taking an antibiotic and you're suffering from that, take the apple cider vinegar. And why would you put the honey with that? Honey is the good microbes in our gut. Honey is their favorite food. They thrive more on that than the steak and potatoes that you had for dinner last night or anything else that you consume.
Why don't you make a young teenager happy and tell them why it can help acne, or it supposedly can do that?
Oh, this has been one of the most exciting things. I served a few years on the National Honey Board, and we did some research with some natural cosmetology schools on the value of honey as a skin treatment, and they were shocked when they found out how good honey was. So it's now being used in facial peels, facial applications. Can
you give a quick explanation of how you would apply it?
There's some great websites. I'll send this to anybody that asks, but if you'll go to honey.com, that's a great resource. That's the National Honey Board, and click on I don't know if it's cosmetics. There's a tab on there that you'll see it's beauty products.
Okay.
And if you'll look at that, they actually tell you the science behind why it helps with acne and why it rejuvenates skin and reduces wrinkles. And I can tell you this: we make soaps out of honey and beeswax. And there's one right there that we do.
It's cinnamon with oatmeal soap. I mean, it's in the wrapper right now, but it's just a round disc, and it's... and
the oatmeal is just for exfoliant, but it has honey in it, and it has beeswax in it, and some other nice essential oils like the cinnamon essential oil. No artificial fragrances in any of our soaps. But why would I want to use honey on my skin? Your skin is your largest organ on your body.
That's right.
Okay? And when you put an oil on it, what you're doing is you're coating that skin, and whatever's in your skin, you're keeping it in your skin. Whatever's outside your skin, you're keeping it away from your skin. So if you want moisture in your skin, you dampen your skin and put honey on it, or honey in a lotion so it's not sticky, which is easy to do, instead of the propylene glycol and the oils that are in the lotions. And now your skin becomes a sink for moisture. It draws moisture out of the air and continues to hydrate itself. So you're not locking your skin back behind a closet of oil. You're opening it up to the environment and to enjoy the moisture in the environment.
Amazing. That's very interesting, extremely interesting. As time ticks away, I know you got a box here full of products. First, before I forget, let's talk about that wine. Tell us about your winery.
We say that at Walker Honey Farm that we're bee to bottle, and we say that because we want people to know that we have beehives. We have 1,000 hives of bees, primarily in 5 counties here in central Texas, and produce our own honey, and have been since 1930. So that's our core business, is beekeeping. But a few years ago, about 15 years ago, about the time you and I got to know each other, as you became a customer of ours, and I became a customer of Aaron Gun Shop.
That's right.
We decided we were going to do more of the to-bottle part of it, so we've been bottling more honey, and about 5 years ago we said, there's another bottle that we could put this honey in. So we started making honey wine, or mead, and we've been doing that for about 5 years now. We've got some award-winning wines. We've won some national awards.
That's fantastic.
Our apple honey wine won best mead in the show at the American Wine Society in November a year ago. So we're having fun doing it. We've got a great vintner, does a great job for us, and we'd encourage people to come out and try some bee to bottle.
That's right. Your original building was the front part of your warehouse, or your production facility there.
Right.
And then you built a new structure to the right of that as you're looking at the building. Yes. That is where your store is. Yes. Your winery part of it is on that side too, from what I saw, right?
You can buy the honey and the wine there at our new store that we've just been in. We moved in 2 years ago this January. We do have the wine cellar up at the production facility, as well as the honey extracting and the honey bottling. So everything that we do that we get dirty and sweaty while we're doing it happens up there at what you're calling the production facility, the old warehouse building where the store used to be in the front of. And so now we've got a place where you can come in and sit down or taste different honeys and fill your own bottle of honey out of a tank.
What do you do twice a year? What do you call that, expose or whatever it is?
We do a farmer's market twice a year. Our real commitment, because we're the farmer and we're on the farm and we're producing our product and want to sell it, is to create an environment in those 2 farmers markets on Memorial Day, so coming up here at the end of May, and the second Saturday in October, is to create a forum where other local farmers can bring their produce in, even craftspeople, small artisans, things like that. If you're making it here locally, we want to support that. And so we have vegetable growers, we have natural grown grass-fed beef and pork, and we do food trucks, and it's a lot of fun.
We had about a great opportunity for a live remote, It
does. If we could find someone that could do a good live remote, we might just have them out.
Okay. All right, well, look, you got that box full of goodies here. I want people to see it on the video, too.
So that's just a jar of our Central Texas wildflower honey. It says
let's clarify that. Look, when you go to the store and you see the other honeys and they're pretty and all this kind of stuff, it's because they took all that good stuff out of it. This is looking pretty, and it's got all the good stuff in it. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
This is cool. I like this.
This is the fun product, right, Matt? This is our natural honeycomb. It's made in the beehive. So if you want something that we haven't touched, no one has touched, that's what you want. Honeycomb, we've got it in the round. It's a ½ pound. And when you put your spoon in it, that's the first time anything's happened to that honeycomb since the bees made it.
Explain how you did it. You told me about the discs in the hive.
Right. There's a ring here around this that we put in the beehive, and a little starter sheet of foundation, and the bees make the honey in this circle. Then we take it out of the hive and put the lids on both sides of it, and a label, so we can get it to the store shelf for you, so you can take home and
incredible.
Feed the family. It's a great product. This is honey in the raw, in natural. This is some cotton honey. We put it right in the jar. We never try to keep it liquid at all, because it's got a different sugar composition. It's got less fructose and more glucose, and high glucose honeys tend to crystallize faster, so we don't even try to keep it liquid like this. We extract the honey right out of the combs. We let it settle for just a day or two. That means the wax floats to the top and the foam. Skim that off with a spoon and put it right in the jar. So you could find some beeswax in here. This is raw. This is really raw.
Not as raw as that.
Not
though,
as
right?
raw as that.
Okay.
That's great stuff. We have some fun stuff we do. This is
That
some
looks delicious.
raspberry and honey. You're going to take this one home with you. I
Oh,
don't
man,
have
check
a
this
label on it. So anyway, but this is raspberry and honey that we crystallize real creamy and smooth. So you can just take your knife and scrape it a little bit, put it on your toast, put it on your waffles. It's a lot of fun and great flavor, and that's all natural raspberries too. This is probably the best thing we've done in the last few years. This product is peanut butter and honey. It was in H-E-B's top 25 new products in Texas 2 years ago. It's now in 200 stores around the state.
That's survival food right there. I can see it.
Absolutely. This is the thing that if I had to put something, what'd you call your bag that you got
Bug
to go?
out bag?
Bug out bag.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I'm going to have to be a better prepper here if I'm going to hang with you, Matt.
All right.
If you had to put one thing in your bug out bag, maybe the honey cured jerky would be in this same ballpark, but peanut butter and honey, you've got a great natural, good for your heart, peanuts, that's scientifically proven now.
Sometimes you put peanut butter on celery sticks, it's really good. If I got honey sticks and I dipped it in your peanut honey, how would that work?
See, are you bucking for a job at Walker Honey Farm, Matt? You're great, man.
I'll do whatever I can.
Yeah, that's right. We're always looking for that next idea, and like we said earlier, we don't mind trying one and failing. So
Hey, Reese's, you know how
that's
that
it.
to be.
Yeah,
Chocolate
exactly.
peanut butter. Go ahead.
I love it. Good analogy. So the peanut butter and honey, that's been a great product. We've been at that for about 6 years now. We think we've got that recipe perfected, we're still trying to improve it. It's good.
I'm going out there today. I want
It's
to look
good.
at all the stuff you got.
All right.
All right. We still got a little bit more time. What else you got in here?
We've got a jar of our Central Texas clover
Hey,
honey.
tell everybody what it takes to fill that bottle up.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. You know, while we're doing this, we need to sample here. Yeah,
Pays to be on this side of the microphone.
this is our peanut butter and honey, and so I'll let you be the judge. We make this fresh about every 2 weeks there
That's
in the store.
freaking good, man. That is
Yeah.
very good.
We got a jar here, and everybody can dig in. All right.
Man, that was good. You got to try that. Go to Walker Honey. I'm barely going to talk. It's so good.
There's so many bees involved in this quart of honey. I don't have the exact numbers, but a bee has to fly around the equator, the equivalency around the equator, to produce a teaspoonful of honey in her lifetime.
That's about 26,000 miles, I believe, if I'm correct.
And so a bee essentially lives until her wings wear out and she is of no more use to the hive. And she offs herself. It's a great little society they've got figured out there. And so there are literally thousands of bees give their life to produce this one jar of honey.
That's a lot of bees. Look at this. Look at that jar, everybody, in the video. How many bees again?
Oh, well into the thousands. I'm
Thousands
loving
of
my peanut butter
bees
and honey.
took to make this bottle. And how many bottles do you sell a year? Incredible. It's incredible. You guys got it going, man. All right, look, I got 3 minutes left. Let's play with 2 more minutes because the last minute I want to close it up. What do you want to talk about that I may have forgotten or missed that you need to get out there and talk about when it comes to honey?
Well, we just want to encourage people to connect with their beekeeper, whether that's us or someone else. We actually have started doing a once a month, what we call our bee to bottle tour. And we actually start in the beehive and we go through our extraction process. And then we take folks into our bottling room, show them how we put the honey in the jar, take them into the cellar, show them how we turn honey into honey wine. This last time when the weather's good and we take them on out into our vineyard. We've got about 600 grapevines there on site, about an acre of vineyard.
Hey, Clint, not to cut you off, but let
Sure.
me ask you this. I've got a barn with a huge beehive in it.
Right.
And I'm allergic. If I get bit or something happens to me, so I stay away from it. But that brings up the question, I would need to find somebody to neutralize it or take care of it. Do you provide services like that?
We don't do that as a service, but on our website at walkerhoneyfarm.com, people can go there and we have a link to that, and we give them a listing of everyone in Central Texas that we know of. And if you're one of those people that does bee removal and we don't have you on our link, go send us an email. Tell us you do that. We'll put you on that site.
And the email again?
It's walkerhoneyfarm.com.
Very good. Okay. How much time I got, Paul?
A minute and a half.
Minute and a half. All right. 30 seconds. Close it up, and I'll do the final minute.
Sure. We would love for folks to come out and see us and experience it, ask the questions. We have a very knowledgeable store staff. If they don't know the answer, they'll know it next week, and they'll tell you that. If you want to sign up for our newsletter and see what's going on the farm, go onto our website, walkerhoneyfarm.com, and you can sign up for our newsletter right there. And we don't pester you, but you'll get about a piece of mail every week or 10 days in your inbox, and that'll tell you when our farmers markets are coming up, when the next tour date is.
Very good. I'm going out there right after the show. I'll probably be there, I don't know, 2 o'clock or so. If you want to come out there, say hi to me. I'd love to meet you. Say hi to Clint. I believe you'll be out there too, right? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, with that, another week has gone past. I look forward to speaking to everybody next week.